Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Profiteers versus the People, the podcast where we myth bust the mega wealthy and try to bring resources to our wonderful viewers. Now, as you might have noticed from the title, we have been at this for a full year,
Which is crazy.
which is fucking crazy. We never expected this to go past maybe 5 or 6 episodes. And for all of you who have been listening from the very beginning, we cannot thank you enough. This has been a light in my life for the past year. So
Same here.
first and foremost, thank you for letting us deliver our content to your wonderful ears. So, we thought, looking back at our year of profiteers versus the peopling, that we would do a year in review. Talk about some of the profiteers that we've discussed over the past year, and host our first annual Crutchees. We want to give our profiteers awards based on things that they've done, go through the Crutches acronym and see who, out of everybody that we've talked about in the past year, who is most deserving of each of the superlatives.
Who really hit a home run for that letter?
Who really harmed some consumers? Who really had rich parents?
Who really harassed the shit out of their coworkers? Who had like a couple of incidents and who just made it their life?
We want the worst of the worst.
Mhm.
And unlike most of our episodes, and this is giving a little bit of a peek behind the curtain here, we have no script for this. We have a list of profiteers to kind of keep everything front of mind, but I wanted our reactions to be genuine and authentic and really give us a chance to think about what we've been doing over the past year and maybe even disagree, something that we don't do very often on this podcast.
Yeah.
So, before we dive in, I am going to rattle off a brief list of all of the profiteers that we have covered since the very beginning. First, we have Jordan Belfort. Then we have Jack Owak, Coco Chanel, Robert Kiyosaki, Bill Gates, SBF, Hugh Hefner, Dave Ramsey, Kevin O'Leary, Aliko Dangote.
I forget about Aliko a lot, but he is a fucked up dude.
He
We
is
were talking about that before this.
Dude, he is a goddamn monster. I am going to have to not spend the whole episode talking about him. We also had Elon Musk, Sam Altman, Grant Cardone, the Mowbray siblings, and Adam Newman to round us off. So, I think what we should do is start at the top of Crutches and go down the list. So, Rad Bill, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who out of the list that I just rattled off really hit a home run at harming consumers? Like who fucked those consumers up?
This was like our most awarded letter. It's like every one of these people were like, oh, you're an innovator who has really done a number on the people who are giving you money for your product. We have folks like Elon Musk, who has cars that catch on fire.
And kill people.
People have died because of Elon Musk's decisions at the helm. We have Bill Gates. But I'm asking myself the question, who made consumer harm core to their business? Like, who depended most heavily on consumer harm?
It wasn't an externality that they ignored. It was a vital part that was, to your point, the part of how they succeeded.
This wasn't incidental.
Yes.
For that, Sam Bankman-Fried gets the hit for me.
I think that's fair. We were talking about this very briefly before about how Aliko Dangote really was so larger than life with some of his shit. Like when we went to the consumer harm part, everybody else, Elon Musk had a couple cars catch on fire. Aliko Dangote was covering towns in toxic soot, like just apocalyptic shit. But I agree that while consumers were harmed, that was more of an externality to what he was doing as opposed to the goal.
Yeah, like Elon Musk had the self-driving cars that have killed just a shitload of
Mhm.
people. But he can look at that and say it's in the name of progress. And Sam Bankman-Fried is like, no, it makes money by fucking people over.
And really, that's where the Ponzi schemers, I think, shine.
Hmm.
So the Ponzi schemers I'm looking at, Belfort,
Oh
definite
yeah,
Ponzi schemer. SBF we already talked about, and Grant Cardone, also allegations of Ponzi scheming.
that's valid. Yep.
Honestly, I completely agree that SBF is a shitheel of a consumer harmer. I'm going to say that, in my opinion, Belfort gets it for me
Okay.
simply because it seems, based on our research, that Belfort had less of an illusion that what he was doing could be profitable. Does that make sense?
100%.
Like, Belfort felt more malicious.
That's true.
Sam Bankman-Fried definitely knew that it was bullshit, but I think, at least, excuse me, initially, there might have been some hope that it was just negligence as opposed to malevolence. But
Yeah, and maybe there was something underlying there, like maybe it'll work itself out. And with
yeah,
with Jordan
yeah,
Belfort, it's like,
fuck these people.
yeah,
Just fuck them. Just fuck them.
yeah, that's valid.
So again, I don't disagree with your analysis. That's just who gets it for me.
You know what? I'm going to switch my answer. I agree with you.
Oh,
Belfort was the most willing and intentional, I think, with his
yeah,
consumer harm.
yeah,
Yeah.
and, and honestly, I think that it might be a case where, I mean, Jordan Belfort's biggest enemy, and I guess his double-edged sword, his biggest enemy and his biggest friend is his goddamn mouth. And the
Yep.
only reason that we know that his intentions were so bad is because he told us. So maybe SBF is in the same boat. He just has the common decency to shut the fuck up about it. I don't know, but yeah, I think either of those two take the cake there. Let's move on.
Oh yeah.
Rich parents. What's your criteria, and who wins it for you?
There's a funny thing with rich parents because there's a positive correlation, a strong one, between how successful someone is and how much money their parents had.
It's actually like
And
the strongest correlation to predict financial success is how successful your parents were. Like, it's the biggest one. Control for every other factor.
yeah, like Sam Altman's parents were like both doctors, which
Hmm,
means
hmm.
he has never worried about money, but he's not going to be able to just come up with $1 billion.
Right.
Bill Gates's dad is the namesake of K&L Gates, which is the 50th largest law firm in the entire fucking world. And his mom was on the board at IBM. His parents' influence played a massive role. His mom got him the meeting with
Yep.
IBM that made
Yep.
him his fortune on operating systems. I'm hoping that this guy's name isn't just going to surprise everyone by taking all of the titles here, but Aliko Dangote
Dude, he is
comes.
sweeping the Crutchees.
I'm just saying, man, it's astounding. I feel like this episode hasn't gotten as much attention, but Aliko Dangote lives in a fairly poor country that has had a lot of issues with geopolitical stressors, external and internal stressors on the economy. A whole lot of people are struggling in Nigeria. And his grandpa was the richest man in West Africa.
Yeah.
We were like searching the lineage, and I couldn't find anyone in his ancestry that wasn't just rich as shit. We were going back to before light bulbs existed, and it was still like, yeah, they were insanely rich in a country that otherwise has been wanting for a long time. So I think Aliko Dangote takes it for me.
When I was thinking about who wins the rich parents, my criteria was whose parents' wealth or parent status was the most instrumental in their success. To your point,
Mm.
someone's parents having doctor money is cool. Like, that is going to give you an amount of security that you know that you can always go home if things really blow up.
Yeah, and your parents can afford to send you to an Ivy League. I mean, that's huge.
Right. But it's not going to be as plug and play as some of the profiteers that we've covered. So for
Oh,
me,
yeah.
I'm right there with you. The level of wealth that Aliko Dangote came from, along with how instrumental it was in Aliko Dangote's success and how much he downplays it, I
Yep.
think that he wins that one for me, hands down. And I think also, kind of to your earlier point, in a country where there's a large gap between the pseudo aristocracy and everybody else,
Mhm.
I think that reinforces the rich parents' effect more than someone who came from a country with a different socioeconomic structure. I will put Bill Gates in a close runner up simply because, to your point, the dude had all of the right connections.
It really is a close one. Just imagining, like, he's having trouble with some coding thing, and his mom, who is on the board of the company that is the king of computers, is talking to him like, what do you think? Should I call one of the founders of IBM and just have them talk you through this? Like, the
Yeah,
access he had was just crazy. But
yes, absolutely. But there was a little bit of right place, right time, right? Like,
mhm.
I mean, his mom could have been on the board of Fisher Price.
Yeah.
Is that a publicly traded? Never mind. Anyway, you're right. That no notes. Moving on. All right. Union suppression and employee abuse. Who's
Mm.
got it for you?
Okay, so we were talking Aliko Dangote. No, I think for
I
me,
thought about it. I thought about it.
yeah, for me, I think this will probably come as a surprise to no one. But again, I'm looking at, to the degree that it is vital for the business model, I think Elon Musk takes it. For me,
Interesting.
I think there's been a lot of
Interesting.
tweeting, sure, but I think he's tried to move into Europe with the same anti-union approach, saying that effectively it's vital to his business model that there's a weak
Mm,
union standing within his organization. So to that degree, I think we have a ton of chuds here when it comes to employee abuse, union suppression.
yeah.
I think Adam Newman, our latest guy, was a shithead when it came to
Yeah.
union suppression and employee abuse. But for me, I think because of how vital he says it is to his organization, I'm going to give union suppression to Elon Musk.
I think that's valid. I think that's valid. And honestly, I've been looking at this list since you've been talking, and the fact that we combine union suppression and employee abuse makes it tough because there have been some very anti-union people who didn't have as many employee abuse allegations, and there have been people with a lot of employee abuse allegations who didn't have as much overt union suppression.
Hmm.
I'm going to say, because we say union suppression and employee abuse, you're right. Elon Musk gets it because of his overt anti-union stance.
Hmm.
And also, like, his wheedling little dick energy when it came to unions. Like, oh, it'd be a shame if you guys lost your stock options because you formed a union. He 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 he. Fuck you,
Yeah.
Elon. But
Yeah.
also, he is an abusive employer. The
Yeah.
the allegations against him are rampant. So I think that he takes the cake in both of those. So I'll give it to him. Also, honorable mention to Coco Chanel. She did a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of union suppressing and abuse shit of her employees too, if I remember correctly.
She did, for sure. She really hated unions. And I
Yeah.
feel like she's a lock for a letter down the line here.
We'll get there.
We'll
We'll
get
get
to that. No spoilers yet.
there. Anyway, any other union suppression thoughts?
I don't think so.
How about tax avoidance? What do you think?
Tax avoidance. is a toughie. It is a money game for sure. Whoever has more money is going to be a bigger offender. I'm inclined to give it to I keep wanting to give it to Aliko Dangote, man. It might be him.
Go for it. Go for it.
Aliko spends a ton of time critiquing Nigeria's taxation system, and yet he has billions of dollars in tax havens like the Bahamas or the Cayman Islands, wherever else. The hypocrisy of it, I think, makes it especially repugnant.
Yeah. If this is telling our listeners anything, it's if you didn't listen to the Aliko Dangote episode, go back and listen.
Yeah.
I'm with you. Really, just for the sake of including others in conversation, I'm actually going to give the T to Bill Gates.
Okay.
And there's a fair amount of inference required. So, the problem about tax avoidance is it's usually done legally, and if it's done illegally, it's covered up very well, and podcasters who are using Google probably aren't going to find a ton of proof.
Yeah.
But the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation seems like a really efficient tax avoidance tool.
Mm-hmm.
When they said, "Oh, we're not going to leave any money to our kids. We're just going to donate it all to the foundation that happens to have their last name on it." It's like, okay.
And your kids will work there. That's cool. Love that.
Yeah, word. Okay, that's fine, I guess. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Bill Gates simply because, based on our research, I think that the Gates Foundation was a very effective tool for tax avoidance. And I just want to stop saying Aliko Dangote's name.
Kind of, right? I'm with you there. And I think, to your point, one of the big reasons we kept that letter in there is just because of how backhanded people can be with their tax evasion efforts.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to charity and trying to get those PR bumps and points for actively avoiding taxes, and that being the main role of the entire endeavor. So, to that degree, I think Bill Gates is an excellent choice.
Yeah. We do need to put an allegedly there because, there's no direct proof that that's how it's being used, but I don't know.
We're looking at where all the pieces are, where all the chips are, and all the frameworks there. If they are not doing that, if that is not the reason they're donating all of their money to their own foundation, it would be a stunning coincidence, I feel.
Exactly. But anyway, let's go to child labor allegations.
The darkest letter on the list.
Yeah.
So, Silicon Valley is pretty stunningly cavalier when it comes to swaying into the child labor thing. I mean, most of the huge tech names we have here depend on child labor somewhere.
Yeah. Yep. If it's cobalt or lithium, some raw material has an underage worker at the end of a pickaxe, for sure.
Well said. This is not going to be the last time I'm going to say his name for this, but I think this one goes to Hugh Hefner.
Interesting.
Those mini houses. What did he call those?
Ooh.
The mini mansions. The mini mansions are... This is child labor, and it is horrific child labor. I want to give this one to Hugh Hefner.
Interesting. I think that if what Hugh Hefner was doing is considered child labor, then yes, he wins it all day. That's the worst kind of work a person could be doing. If not, then Elon Musk's business model relies on the use of child labor in cobalt mines, and his whole shtick doesn't work without it. So I think depending on your...
Yeah, we don't want you, our lovely listeners at home, to feel like we're cutting corners or doing any sort of cop-out, if you could consider either of those definitions as cop-out. So
yeah. Depending on how you define child labor, could go to either of them. Let's move on, because icky.
Yeah.
Harassment allegations. I mean,
Yep.
this one's pretty easy.
This thing, it's gonna feel like it's on repeat here and there, but I think Hugh Hefner takes it for harassment as well.
Man, not even fucking close. We've got to realize how low the bar is. I
Oh
mean,
my god.
there are several of these profiteers that have, documented, paid out to settle, sexual assault scandals. And in that group, Hugh Hefner still takes the cake all fucking day. That guy was
Yeah.
a goddamn monster.
A nightmare story. I mean, where that story got bleak, it got
Oh,
difficult to write. It was so bleak.
I think that script was one of the hardest to write
Mhm.
because, like you said earlier, I didn't want to cut corners. I didn't want to paint the guy in a light that didn't highlight the shitty things he did. But I also didn't want to force our listeners to hear shit like that, So,
From the sleek tuxedoed man, just all the
ugh.
stuff happening behind closed doors is we won't include it in here. If you have a penchant for lurid details like that, check the episode out. Also, Money
Yeah.
Mike did a pretty excellent musical piece for that episode. It's one of our more musical episodes, so
I forgot
worth
about
listening.
that.
Oh,
But
I
thanks,
love it.
man. Thanks. Thanks. But anyway, so egregious behavior after hours. This one also feels pretty simple.
Yeah. So, okay. It is neck and neck for second place. For
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yes, second
Yeah.
place is a fight for sure.
It is. It's a toughie, a real nail biter. But first place is pretty easy. It's Coco Chanel all day.
Yeah, she was an actual Nazi, dude. Like,
She was a card carrying Nazi. Uh,
yeah, which okay. Like, again, I thought this episode was gonna be a lot more lighthearted, but I'm really forcing myself to ask some fucked up questions. Like, this is the worst game of Would You Rather I have ever played. Like, usually it's like, oh, would you rather, eating pizza for a year or not have any chocolate or whatever? But this is like, would you rather Nazism or sex abuse? It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, dude. I don't know. They're both pretty bad, I guess. But yeah, I'm gonna give it to Coco just because being a card carrying Nazi is a bummer. But I think the one thing that unites maybe 80% of these profiteers is they were pieces of fucking shit to everyone around them.
yeah,
I mean,
terrible people. Yeah.
honorary mentions: Jordan Belfort, wife beater, piece of fucking garbage. He put that in his book too, which is bananas. Hugh
Yeah.
Hefner, we've already talked about that. Aliko Dangote, horrible. Bill Gates, horrible. Elon Musk, horrible. Grant Cardone, horrible.
We didn't touch on this a ton with Bill Gates on the harassment side, but he was Melinda's boss when they met.
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
harassment and inappropriate workplace relationships are core to his romantic life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Bill Gates is a piece of shit. He's on Epstein's flight logs. I mean, allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
What we do know, garbage. So, okay,
Yeah.
we're giving it to Coco because she was a card-carrying supporter of the extermination of a whole race of people.
Yeah. She fought to save the stormtroopers.
Yeah, that is not a good look, Coco. Not a good look at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we'll give her the E for egregious behavior after hours. Slap suits and journal suppression. Who takes the cake for you, Red Bill?
Alas, another toughie.
It is. It
Yep.
is.
Elon Musk is a bad one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
the Mowbrays are pretty hard hitters. They're very, very
Yeah.
litigious. I'm going to give it to the Mowbrays, actually.
I'm kind of with you from like a personal spite standpoint.
Yeah.
Simply because I had to like alter my Google searching to find anything negative about them, which just seems a little sus. You know,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, not cool. Malbrays. Maybe don't be pieces of shit, and people won't write inflammatory things about you.
Yeah, that, and then when Nick Mowbray very vaguely threatened that college student with litigation.
I forgot about that. Yeah, being litigious to like the fucking university paper, like that's like suing the fucking Glee Club. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, stop being an asshole.
Lay off. Jesus.
But yeah, so I'm with you there. I think a lot of our profiteers had pretty egregious examples of journalist suppression to preserve their image. I mean, the whole shtick of our show is piercing the PR narrative or the PR armor. So I think all of them get it to some extent, but Nick Mowbray's was the most, I don't know, fucking pathetic, I guess.
It's so pathetic, so very hard to research. Every one of these people has armor on the PR side. Nick Mowbray, Elon Musk, Aliko Dangote, Bill Gates to some extent, they have armor and a sword. This is defensive and offensive. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that goes to the Mowbrays. Give that episode a listen. It was a listener request anyways. We loved doing it for them, and it was a fun series to do. It was hard but fun.
For sure. You know, looking back on our year of podcasting, I personally, I've definitely learned a ton about the research piece, and I've also worked a ton. I mean, a lot of the shit that we did, it was hard. You know,
yeah,
it was time consuming. Definitely more time consuming than I think either of us anticipated. But
for sure,
it's been awesome. We love bringing content to our wonderful listeners' ears.
Next, we are going to give a holler to the lightest offender on the list. In this year's Not a Big Dick Award. This award goes to the profiteer who got the lowest Crutches score. We suspect that, so we suspect that this will usually go to our poorest profiteer. And in 2023, I'm almost certain it did. Give it up, everyone, for Mr. Grant Cardone. Attaboy, Grant! Grant managed to amass a fortune, and his only ethical missteps were harming his employees and harming the people he was selling shit to. So, for that, Grant, I guess, I mean, you know, good job.
Interesting. So, okay, we need to say, while Grant didn't get a lot of the crutches, I mean, he's basically running a Ponzi scheme. I mean, he's using SEC loopholes to run a complex real estate scheme and sell it to people who don't know what that means. So he's still a piece of shit, but I would say he is the more singularly focused piece of shit.
Yes, wholly agreed. He has the C and the U: consumer harm and union suppression and employee abuse. But so he has two letters, but what's worth remembering here is that Sam Altman has three letters, and he, all intents and purposes, is laying out a plan to take over the world. And Coco Chanel only had three letters, and she, again, was a card-carrying Nazi. So this is a pretty technical award.
Yeah.
It's a technicality bit, a little. But yeah, he's got two letters. He is a repeat offender on the consumer harm and on the employee abuse side. He's terrible on both.
Okay. So now that we've talked about the crutches, let's move on to some more, I don't know, fun awards.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you on these ones.
Sure.
All right, so the Biggest Loser Award. This award is going to be given each year to the profiteer that we've covered who has shat the bed the hardest over the last 365 days.
Ooh.
Money, my dear, your thoughts on the biggest loser of the year?
I think SBF hit it pretty fucking hard. He went to jail.
We have a few folks. Jack Owak lost his business, and Dave Ramsey's reputation has been really dragged through the shitter here because of this timeshare thing. But
yes,
SBF is staring down the barrel of a life in prison.
Prison time.
Forever. Dying in prison.
Is that how long his sentence or he's on board for? I thought he was only going away for a couple years. Let me look that up real quick.
I don't think they've given a number yet, but some of the stuff I read suggested that he could be going away for 100 years.
Actually 110 years, according to Forbes. Oh, fuck.
SBF gets it, I think.
Yes, 110 years in prison is a bummer of a year. But I think that he gets it real hard. You might have already said this a couple minutes ago, but did we ever talk about Elon Musk just shitting the bed? Because his whole acquisition and carpet bombing of Twitter has been wonderful to watch.
It's been breathtaking, truly. I mean, in 2022, that sale finalized.
Yep.
And I think collectively, at the end of the year, a whole lot of us were looking at that entire shitstorm and going, well, it's not going to get much worse for him. I mean, show's kind of over. And this year, it has gotten so much worse and so rapidly.
Yes.
I don't know what the hell's happening to his brain. There are custody things that are becoming very public with him and Grimes. Twitter, or X's, I'm going to call it Twitter forever, but Twitter's value has dropped from 44 billion to somewhere between 19 billion and, according to Elon Musk himself, 4 billion.
Oh no. And also we should mention that he went from retweeting some potentially right-wing propaganda or saying some things that we were like, oh man, come on, don't be like that, dude.
Yeah.
He's just full blown just drunk uncle on Facebook. Sometimes I see the things that he tweets, I'm like, oh my god.
Is that Nazi shit? I can't tell if that's Nazi shit.
Who is he talking to? Who else thinks this? But anyway, yes. So I think that SBF's potential 110-year prison sentence definitely takes the cake on biggest shitter of the bed. But Elon Musk is he's a close second for me.
A runner-up for sure. Yep. The next one I have here is the Floater Award.
So what is this? The Floater Award.
The Floater Award goes to the person who fucks up the most and keeps somehow winding up on top again.
Oh, yeah, dude. Adam Newman, all fucking day. If you haven't listened to the second part of that episode, a big question that we were kind of grappling with while we were writing it was, who sucks worse, Adam Newman or everybody else who just kept shoving money up his butt? And he just keeps landing on his feet, dude. He's an idiot, and he keeps getting money to do more idiotic things. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so here's something. Adam Newman, I think, gets it. He takes the cake for sure. It is unfathomable that he keeps getting this money, given, just how little care he put towards preserving a reputation with the folks who gave him money. They just keep coming back. It's like a cycle of abuse.
Yeah. He's a fucking abusive ex-boyfriend.
Straight up. We have our Idiot of the Year award.
Yeah. So a conversation that Rad Bill and I often have, and in fact, we've had it on this very episode, is the subject of our episode just a moron who's completely incompetent, and that incompetence has had negative effects, or are they just a malevolent force? So for this award, I want to give it to somebody who has proven that they are a malevolent force of incompetence. Someone who just keeps fucking up, and it causes everything to get worse. Who do you think gets it?
I have some guesses. I'm going to say God, actually, now that I'm looking at the list, I think a case could be made for Owak, but I think it's got to be Adam Newman.
Dude, Adam Newman's just billion trillion fucking inflation of numbers was the funniest shit in the world to read. When he was like, "Oh, a million won't work? Well, how about a billion?" Like, do you even know how big a billion is, Adam Newman? But yeah, I'm gonna give it to him. I think that a case could be made for SBF, but I'll give it to I'll give it to Adam. So, are there any other awards that you want to give out before we end this thing?
There is one more award that I think we need to touch on.
Okay.
And that is the High Score Award.
Ooh.
This goes to the baddest of the bad, and we have a two-way tie, actually. Funny again, I think that there is a positive correlation between your Crutches score and the amount of wealth you've amassed. But our two biggest, we have a tie for the big award here, and our two take-it-home winners are Bill Gates and Elon Musk, with multiple offenses on both, multiple offenses on each letter of our Crutches acronym. They are both the winners for the year. Worst of the worst for those two.
Yeah. For a second, I thought Aliko Dangote had both, but I guess we didn't get him for child labor.
That was the one. Yeah. Yeah, he had everything but child labor. He had 7 of the 8, but Bill Gates and Elon Musk both got every single box.
But anyway, so any other awards that we want to talk about before we end this thing?
I don't think so. I think that's all I've got. Yeah. Any that you want to give out?
I don't think so. I will say one more time how awesome it has been to deliver content for you all, or to you all, for the past year. I hope that we can continue to do this for a long, long time, and I will look forward to seeing all of you at our next Crutchees in January of 2025.
Yep. Thank you all so much for listening. I Money Mike, I feel like, has done a pretty great job of driving this home, but I want to go ahead and kick the dead horse here and further emphasize just how much of a joy it is to make this show, and the fact that people regularly tune in and listen and write us stuff. It's amazing.
It really is. I think one of the reasons that I wanted to do this episode is not just to, go back and talk about our profiteers, but just kind of give us a chance to reflect on being podcasters for the past year. And it's been a really cool year. I listened to our first episode not terribly long ago, just to kind of get some compare contrast, and I feel like I can say pretty confidently that we've grown a ton since then. So again, thank you so much for hanging out with us for all this time, and we will catch you on the next one.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, and goodbye. Fuck yeah.
I feel good about